Hi everyone, welcome to learning and memorization video for this book, Money Master the Game, 7 Simple Steps to Financial Freedom by Tony Robbins. This book is included in this month's box. It's a great book. It's multiple times bestseller. And also find the memorization booklet as well as the cheat sheet for the book, which is also included in your mentor box. And then as you watch this video, pause whenever needed to fill out the answer in the memorization booklet. There are, I think, 15 exercises in this booklet, and I think I'm going to go through 6 or 7 of them. You can go through the rest. We did it a couple of times ourselves. It takes about, I want to say, 45 minutes to an hour to actually fill out the booklet. But it's well worth it. This is a very good book, and the subject is obviously very important, and it would serve you well if you actually do all the exercises. As always, the idea here is to combine kinesthetic learning, meaning doing, in this case writing, thinking about the situation and writing, which is the closest thing to doing, along with visual and auditory, as well as a little bit of reading, so that we hit every single learning method, and regardless of what is your dominant learning method, you would learn the concepts, internalize them, and most importantly, you will be able to take action and recall those concepts later on. Okay, so with that, let me jump quickly into a brief summary of the book. So in this book, Tony Robbins went and talked to quite a few successful people, some of them billionaires, and summarized the learnings from all these interviews and also his personal experience into 7 steps, 7 simple steps that you can actually put the 7 steps on the cheat sheet. You can pause this video and take a quick look at the steps that I think really important and really interesting. Some of them, can be interpreted differently, and as I'm going through the exercises, I will tell you guys how I interpret some of these steps. But you basically look at those and then go do our exercises and start implementing them in your own life. Okay, so let's just start by, I want to jump right into it. Let's just start by exercise 1, which is one thing that I tell people all the time. If you want to improve any aspect of your life, whether it's like wealth, or it's your health, or it's weight, whatever it is that you want to improve, the first step is actually to be aware of that and actually measure it. That's, even in business, if you want to grow your business, the first thing that you need to know is what is the metric, what is the quantity that you're trying to improve, and watch it and monitor it, and then pay attention to it. Be like systematically thinking about it. And money is one of those things. So the first thing is the first exercise in the book, and actually, the first step in the cheat sheet is to recognize that money is actually important. And I know it's sometimes a taboo. I don't know why, but sometimes people, the same way that people sometimes avoid talking about politics or religion, they avoid talking about money too. And money, but the problem is money is too important of a subject for you to ignore. So, it will be a costly mistake to actually not think about it. So the first thing that I personally do is always, with wealth as well as any other metric, is that I look at how I define wealth, or in this case money, and then I start acknowledging it and measuring it over time. So that's why in exercise 1, we kind of want to break the taboo. We want to break the taboo of, some of you guys don't have this, but for those of you who avoid thinking or proactively thinking about money, and it's a mistake. And the way we want to break the taboo is by having you guys fill out this simple questionnaire. The first one is acknowledge people that you are financially responsible for, And it could be just yourself. I mean, if you're a single guy, no kids, that could be the case. But even you, I mean, you matter. So, but if you're responsible for other people, you know, write down like all the people that you think you're financially responsible for, and by the act of writing down and putting a face into what we're trying to achieve here, it kind of helps you break that taboo a little bit. And the next question, so pause the video, by the way, as always, to fill out the exercise. So that would be the first exercise. Literally write down the reason that money would matter to you, and just write it down. Nobody's looking, so you know, you can write whatever you want. Then the next question is, how financially literate are you? And I think a question that is even more important is how confident you are in your understanding of the financial world. And it's one of those things. I went through school, years of school, and except for 1 or 2 classes, there wasn't that much education around that. And that's, I think, one of the areas where the education system failed us a little bit. I mean, maybe you guys had a different experience than I did, but it basically, the way I think about it is, there is how much do you know and how much confident you are in what you know. And you know, it's easy to say, oh, I'm not a financial expert and I'll have financial advisors like I do. I have financial advisors. But the truth is, unless you know the basics, you can never completely expect somebody else to take care of it. I actually apply that to every aspect of my life. Even when I'm starting a business, I am the first person doing the job myself. Even though there are other people who would be able to do the job better than me, first I want to do it myself. A little bit of it, I want to do it myself. And once I've done it myself a little bit, then it's a lot easier to ask others to either delegate to them or have them be your advisor. But first, you need to build some basic understanding of the concept that you're trying to implement. In this case, you know, basic financial literacy is something that you should have. And I can't think of that many skills that are more important than that. So hopefully we're going to accomplish by the end of these exercises, at least some basics will be in place. And the rest of it, I mean, the booklet and the cheat sheet complete the whole thing. And then if you want, also read the book. In the cheat sheet, we give you page numbers for different concepts. So the ones that you think you're not comfortable with, the concepts that you think you still don't understand, just look up the page number and go in the book and read that chapter. So, and also one of the things that we are going to do going forward is that in the future mentor boxes, we're gonna keep including more wealth and money related books and content. And I'm also going to ask my friends who are financial advisors or people who are experts in this field to come and provide expert opinion sometimes. So, you know, that's something basically every month we want to work at it a little bit, and over time we will be really good at it. And the last exercise is that rate your own financial plan on a scale from 1 to 10. You know, this is self-assessment. We want to know where we start. So, you know, I would give myself maybe a 7. So what would you give yourself? If you're 1, then you have to work really hard at it. If you're 10, then maybe you don't need this. But I think anybody, even the most successful people, can continue to build on top and just learn a little bit more every time. Okay? So that's exercise 1, and the goal was very simple: to get us comfortable talking about the concept and breaking a taboo a little bit, if it is a taboo. So exercise number 2, this is a simple concept, but I think it's powerful. It gets people thinking. So think about your retirement. You know, if you have been a member of Mentor Box 2 boxes ago, one of the things that we covered was, one of the techniques that I always use is I always work from the end result. So when I'm starting to take on a project or anything, I start from the ending. And then work backwards. So when it comes to something like money or wealth or financial planning goals, so I'd like to think of the end goal first. So the exercise that we're giving you is, you know, the goal is, think about the end game. So you want to retire And once you retire comfortably, what is a yearly amount that you want to have as an income after your retirement? And multiply that. First, come up with that number, whatever it is. We gave the example of $40,000 a year, but it depends on where you live, what country, what area, what lifestyle do you want to have. It could be a lot higher, or it could be lower. But whatever that amount is, multiply that by 20. And that is the amount of investment that you should have at the time that you retire. So basically working from the ending in mind and just working backward. Again, a very simple exercise. So, the second exercise is, write down the number and just multiply it by 20. Acknowledge it to yourself. That's the step one, right? So that's what we want to achieve. And then we will work on a plan to get there. The third concept, exercise 3, one of the things I tell people all the time is compounding. And the concept of compounding is interesting because it's counterintuitive, and people don't understand how powerful it is. So the best way to think about it is, you in any game, the best way to win is to win with time on your side. You want to create a system where time works for you, not against you. And that's what you can achieve by investing and then compounding interest on top. And and it's hard to understand, like our brains, it's sometimes hard for our brains to actually understand the concept of compounding because it's exponential growth. And we underestimate it. We're like, oh, it's 5% yearly. It's not that much. But the truth is, over time, it builds. It builds to a huge amount. So the goal of this exercise is to give you a little bit of intuition about how important compounding is, and better understand how powerful it is actually. So the exercise is simple. Let's say Ben Franklin donated $1,000 to Philadelphia. And over 200 years, we reinvested the interest back into the fund. How much do you think it would be worth? And there are 4 options. So $1,000 becomes $6,500, $65,000, $650,000, or $6.5 million. Okay, so the answer is at the bottom. Don't look at it. So pause the video. Think about that. So over 200 years. $1,000 would become $6.5 million, and that's the power of compounding, and it's very small interest rate basically. So it's important. So in compounding, 2 things matter: the length of time that the money, that the principal has been accumulating interest, right? So how long, and also interest rate. So the most important thing to know is, first, how much you're saving and putting in whatever investment vehicle that you're using. And the second thing is, what is the interest rate? And it is actually sometimes surprising to me that a lot of people don't know the rate of return on their investments. Like if it is, savings account, what is the interest that you're accumulating on it? Or if you have invested, I don't know, S&P 500 index, and it yields dividends, what is the dividend yield rate that you get every year? So just know it. I'm not saying that necessarily take any action, but at least know that what is that rate. Okay, that's exercise. That was exercise 3. Now let's go to exercise 4, and this is actually an interesting exercise because it plays with a simple concept. The best way to achieve great distances or great height or great wealth is to go at it a little bit at a time. Just save a little bit every month. And the exercise here is how much am I going to put away each month into an investment account? So simple, just come up with a number. And what percentage of your income that would be. And we gave you an example. I can commit 10% of my income every paycheck as long as I can cut back blah, blah, blah. So think about, what is the percentage that you can actually, the point is not to actually push too hard, because if you push too hard, then you cannot hold yourself to it. But the point is to come up with a goal that you can systematically execute. And what days are you going to talk about? So then the next step is, okay, how can you make it automatic so that it doesn't, so that it gets deducted all the time? And I know a lot of you guys who might have who have jobs and you're in a payroll system. There are different ways depending on the company, country, and all that. The answer to this question is different, but the best kind of solution is like an automatic deduction that goes into some sort of savings account. And who would be the person that if it is not happening right now, who would be the person that can help you make it happen? One thing I should tell you is, you should have a financial planner, a certified financial planner to help you out. But end of the day, you want to self-educate yourself as well. And what we are doing here, I'm not a CFP, but what I'm doing here is that we are trying to convey the information in books like this to you guys so that you self-educate in addition to getting advice from certified financial planners. And and if you don't have a financial planner, I highly recommend that you go and find one that can help you with this process. Okay? Exercise number 6, Tony Robbins talks about, just like I said, interest compounds and over time becomes huge amounts. The same is true with fees, mutual advisory fees, brokerage fees. And we gave you an exercise here to, basically the goal of this exercise is to, a lot of times people think that, it's 2%, 3% fee, it doesn't matter. But the truth is, it accumulates over time. So here what we're trying to do is to give you guys intuition. I guess that's the best way to put it. So we want you to understand that, that additional fee, or the leakage as I call it, compounds over time, and you end up, in the example that we gave you is, a mutual fund advisor on average takes 3.22% in fees, and over 35 years that actually becomes 70% of your savings. So that's what I'm talking about. Just like compound interest, fees as a percentage, they also compound over time. So you want to minimize those. Rules of the game: buy low and sell high. Timing matters. This is again an interesting concept. It's actually well known. Obviously you've heard this, right? So there are, again, different people have different opinions on this, like most things with money, right? So the goal here is not to tell you what is a specific strategy or the right strategy, but actually educate you on what the strategies different people use, and you can pick and choose later, or you can try all of them, or you can have different allocations. But obviously he advocates that when the market crashes or stock is low, you can think about buying it. And I personally can say that is like I don't like doing that. A lot of times when I see stock is low, there's a reason for it, why it's so low. And I wouldn't say that it is that simple. Sometimes even I can tell you that there are traders. There's a very well-known trading method called turtle traders. You can Google it and look it up. And their method was, instead of buying low and selling high, they would buy when things were at their high, and then they would sell higher. So their thing was buy high and sell even higher. So what I'm trying to say here is that there is no single method or single strategy in investment. There are multiple. And as I said several times already, the goal here is to convey these to you and start talking about them, all of them. And even though initially it might sound overwhelming, but the truth is, over time, every month we add these things, and I'm going to bring some very qualified financial advisors to start talking about these things. Over time you get a grasp of these ideas, and you can pick and choose your investment strategies, and over time you would decide what works best for you. Like I mean, one investment strategy that I really like, I personally really like, is to buy and never sell. So, you know, instead of buy low and sell high, I like to buy really good stuff, like good stocks, for example, and never sell. And, you know, especially if they are the type of investment that provide a dividend or some sort of income stream, I just want to hold them forever. So, you know, that's my personal preference. But the reason, so the one way to think about it is that there are many different ways. There are many different ways of skinning the cat, so to speak. And the goal here is to know what are these different ways, and then you pick and choose and over time adjust. So in my opinion, there are multiple ways of accumulating wealth. There are different strategies, and people who win, they might win using different strategies, but the point is that they have a strategy. A lot of people are just confused or overwhelmed with all these different things that, you know, different approaches to basically generating wealth, and they just give up, or they go at it without strategy. And that is what we are trying to avoid here. Basically what we are trying to say is, don't just believe whatever method somebody is using. It might have used for them, it might have worked for them in the past, it might be working for them, but it may not work for you. The goal is to learn all of these and know all of them. So timing, you know, he says, like exercise 8, he says timing matters. You know, buy stuff when it's low. Like if you bought in the crash of 2008, if you bought at the absolute bottom, you know, the right stocks, you would have gotten a lot of return. That is true, but just because it was true in 2008 doesn't mean the next time it will be true. So the way I think about these things is that I want to learn, like, you know, this as a rule. So try to time the market. But then again, there's a whole class of people, like a lot of really smart people, that will tell you it's impossible to time the market. So, you know, so when you have like conflicting data points like that, like here he says timing matters in this book, timing is everything, true, but then there's a whole group of people, really smart people, that believe timing, market cannot be timed, and they have their own strategies, and maybe we cover those in one of the future boxes. The point is that here's side A, here's side B, here's side C, everyone's like approach and strategy, and over time you build your own belief and a strategy. And trust me, you want to have a strategy when it comes down to to building a financial system for yourself. Exercise 11. So, you know, some people are risk takers, some people are conservative, you know, one way to do it is to mix it all up. So again, this is something that a financial planner would do for you, is basically, you know, you can have a security bucket, a growth bucket, and a dream bucket. And this is something that you can actually take to your financial planner and do it with them. So you want to invest some of your money into different buckets. Well, so create these different buckets, and the exercise is kind of like in details, but say, for example, I'm going to put a percentage of what I'm saving into bonds, savings accounts, a percentage in stocks and real estate, and a percentage in, you know, I don't know, startups or some high risk assets. So, you know, I always say life is too complex to play only one game. So, and it's fun to do different things, and it's also a good strategy to diversify. So why would you just do stocks? Why would you just do real estate? Why would you just do any single asset class? Basically what you should do is that, you know, put a little bit here, put a little bit there, and diversify a little bit. And that is again something that you can decide on your own. The exercise is interesting, so I suggest you pause this video and fill this out. Okay. Now, exercise 13. This is an interesting exercise because this is something that when I tell people, they don't quite understand, and I need to explain this multiple times, and I'm going to use the board a little bit. So Warren Buffett says that rule number 1 is to never lose money, and rule number 2 is to see rule number 1. So here's the thing. Losing money, gaining money is a lot harder than losing money. Once you lose money, it's a lot more difficult to get back to where you were. And I'm going to give you a simple example. Assume that you had $100. This is $100, and you lose, let's say, 33%. So lose 33%. Okay. So that means you are down to $66.66, right? So 33% of $100 is 33.33. You're left with $66.66. Now, how much, once you have you're here, how much return should you have? So you lost 33% of your money. How much return should you actually realize on $66 to get back to where you were, like be even, right? How much is that? Is that 33%? So if you actually gain 33% on $66, would you get back to where you were? No. You actually have to gain 50% to get back to where you were. Interesting, no? So 66%, in order to get to where you were, you need to gain $33.33, and that is 50% of what is left. So basically, for you to get even, if you lose 33%, for you to get even, you need to gain 50% to get back to where you were. So you see, losing money is a lot easier than gaining it back to get back to where you were. The same is true if you lose like 50% of your money, then you need to gain 100% to get back to where you were, which is one of those things that is, again, it's a little bit counterintuitive, and one of the things that we are trying to do with these exercises is to give you intuition. That's what I call it. It's important to have intuition, meaning an intuitive understanding of these things, because this is not intuitive. Most people, if you ask them, if you lose 33% of your money, how much should you gain to make up to be back where you were? And most people would tell you 33%, but that's not true. The answer is 50%. And we gave you another one. Let's say you invest $100, and in year 1 you gain 50%. In year 2 you lose 50%. In year 3 you make 50%, and then again in year 4 you lose 50%. So you gain 50%, lose 50%, gain 50%, lose 50%, right? Gain 50%, lose 50%, gain 50%, lose 50%. What are you left with? The answer is $56. So $100 gets cut in almost half. Even though you gain 50%, lose 50%, gain 50%, lose 50%, you end up with almost half of what you started with, which is again my point, that in passive investments, it's best not to ever lose money, because it's very difficult to get back to break even, or it's harder to get back to break even. Now, I need to qualify this, because this statement is true for passive investments, meaning, if you're buying stocks or something like that, versus active investments are different. One of the things I tell people is that, the thing about investing in stock market is that once you buy the stock, you can't control the company. So it's kind of like it's someone else's hands. So it is out of your hands. And in those, you need to be very careful, because if you lose money, then you can't make up for it. But in a lot of things, like, I personally, I like building businesses, and when I build businesses, I take a lot of risk, and in those situations I think it's okay, because to take risk and lose money, It's actually part of it, because if you're scared of losing money in those situations, you will not succeed. So in those situations, taking risk is part of the game. You will not actually be able to, you will not be a good entrepreneur if you're not able to take risks. Investments are different. So two different things, actually two different mindsets, which is something that I tell people all the time. Entrepreneurial mindset versus investor mindset, completely different. Entrepreneurs don't necessarily make good investors, and vice versa. Investors by default want to minimize risk. Entrepreneurs have to be risk takers to be good entrepreneurs. So, have that in mind as well. So I don't know what your personality type is. Are you a risk taker, or you're risk averse? But have in mind that all of these are, again, even this thing that never ever lose money, and the example I gave you, it is something to know, and it is applicable in certain situations, but nothing is applicable everywhere. These are not general, these are not laws of physics. So they're applicable in some situations, not applicable in other situations. But it's important to know, like something like this is important to know. I have asked this question from many people, and normally people, without actually writing down, they don't know the answer. Yeah, so these are important concepts. Now, exercise 14, never stop learning, which is why you're a member of MentorBox, and the reason that we have created this product is, the truth is, the best investment, end of the day, is the investment you're making yourself and in your own brain. So never stop learning. Every month, every day you wake up, try to learn something new. And that's billionaire's mindset. And it's basically, life is let me read this because it's interesting. All the great wisdom keepers say that life is a constant journey. It's a constant journey. Every day is new, it's fresh. As soon as you climb one mountain, there's another one waiting for you around the bend. And I personally have seen this in my own life. Like every month I feel like, God, I wish I knew this last month. And it's constantly happening. And all my life it has been like that. And the more, financial world is obviously one aspect of it that you definitely, you want to constantly educate yourself, and you learn new things. And maybe we start including, we're definitely going to start including a lot of financial books, and I'm going to start bringing, financial advisors to give these talks. But, we had to start somewhere, and this is where we started. The average CEO reads 60 books a year compared to the average citizen who reads less than one. Do you think there's a correlation here? Of course there is. I honestly, I can tell you, books are intimidating to some people. And, which is why actually we created MentorBox. We want to unpack the knowledge in the books and then offer it in different methods of learning, and offer it in a way that you guys can learn really quickly. Even if you actually don't read the book, don't read the cheat sheet, and don't read the booklet, hopefully just watching this video and other videos that we included in the box helped, triggered something in your brain, at least the need to know these things. So, that's what we're trying to accomplish here. Brainstorm. So MentorBox is a good way to do constant learning. Brainstorm 5 other ways that you can make every day an adventure in learning. So it's really how I think about it, and I encourage you to think about it the same way. So, and knowledge is actually accumulative. So over time, you learn by adding on top, and every time, like a habit, it can be a habit. Like when I hear a word I don't understand, I'll ask for its definition. So as you've been watching through these videos, if you see concepts or the words that we use and you don't understand what it is, Google it as an example. So write out five things that you can do. This is billionaire mindset. So all right, and the last exercise, exercise 15, live your life now. Live a little bit, basically. And this is actually an interesting exercise. The best way, I tell people all the time, the best way to actually build a habit is to feel the reward of doing that action. So if you want to, let's say, build a habit of working out, reward yourself after workout, like eat something that you like right after the workout, and that over time helps you build that into a habit. And the same thing with financial investments. So reward yourself a little bit, like basically put a goal that, if I do this, or if I hit this milestone, I'm gonna do this for myself, and let that reward, basically think of your brain as a the action and reward mechanism. Every time you do an action, you reward yourself a little bit. Over time, that action becomes a habit. It's actually sometimes subconscious, so you don't even know. And that's one of the things that I tell people is that, you did something great, live a little, reward yourself, okay? So with that, I'm gonna conclude this video. As I said at the beginning of the video, we can't be your financial planner, but what we can do is we can convey the concepts in books like these to you guys, through summarizing them, and also producing these videos, so that we keep, and the goal is not here to just make you like a financial wizard in one box in 1 month, because that won't happen. It would just overwhelm you. But every month, if we include some content over time, gradually it builds over time. So every month, this month we talked about a bunch of concepts that hopefully at least some of them were new to you and you learned. Like, for example, this concept I talked about, meaning losing money, gaining money, the asymmetry of losing money versus gaining money. Or maybe compounding is something that you didn't grasp how important that is, or how it can actually make a huge difference over time. A little bit of interest accumulated over a long time can be huge. The same with fee saving. I mean, I hope some of these concepts were new and you walked away with something interesting from this video. And like I said, the book is an amazing book. We summarize the most important points into this booklet, and also the cheat sheet, the 7 steps are summarizing cheat sheets, 1 page, so it shouldn't take that long. Read it. I'm sure some of it would be new to you, and maybe some of it you don't understand. That's when you can Google it, or go refer to that part of the book and read that part of the book. But even if you can't, you can't understand the whole thing, one of the things I tell people is that don't try, the term I use is, don't try to boil the ocean. Don't try to do everything in one sitting, in one shot, because then you won't be able to do it, and you get disappointed and you stop. So whatever you can grasp, or if you grasp all of it, great. But if there are parts of it that are just not that easy, or you don't have time this month to work on, it's fine. So we will continue to add more and more of these books, and over time you will have a diverse and comprehensive understanding of different topics, and this would be one of our goals and one of the topics that we would include in every box. Okay, thanks for listening. Hope this was useful. Bye.